What's up guys, this is Anime Crossover. I'm back with another episode of What If Naruto Was Trained by the Sage of Six Path Part 20. And if you did enjoy this video, give this video a like, and if you're new to my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit that notification bell for more crossover fictions with a twist. Now let's begin this new video.
Chapter 29. Chaos and Balance Tokyo, Japan Ryozanpaku Dojo. Huh? Mew, what is it? Kenichi inquired, noticing the blonde beauty's intense thought. Mew gazed at her fellow disciple, shaking out of her reverie. I was wondering where Naruto and Rhea are because they didn't show up for breakfast. Perhaps they got an early start. Perhaps, she said, her eyes wide with a smile. Or maybe they're finally doing it. Doing what? A perplexed Kenichi inquired. Mew gave him her usual adorable smile. They're dating, silly.
Ah, but where would he take her, I wonder? Mew pondered, putting a finger to her chin.
I honestly don't know. With that, the teens resumed their kata practice, like they always do. Kata practice allows martial artists to learn the movement of a martial art to the point where they can fight unconsciously. It certainly helps when learning many martial art styles, as Kenichi does. Hayato slurped his tea on the terrace with his companion as Kensei read his magazine. Is it true? Who knows? Says the author. Kensei pouted little at the elder's amusing tone. Come on, is it? Like I said, who knows? Kensei groaned, knowing he'll get no response from him. Well, someone certainly doesn't like it, Hayato observed as Kensei observed Medusa training with Shigure. She held a bokken, a wooden sword. Medusa was learning the basic stance and blows for swordmanship in today's lesson. You could tell by her body language, but her eyes say it all. She's hurt. Hayato nodded solemnly. The only people who can fix this are Naruto, Rhea, and Medusa. All we can do is support them. Medusa chastised herself internally as she swung her bokken under Shigure's supervision in case of faults in her form. Why? Why do they always break my heart? Her eyes hardened as her hold on the bokken tightened. I'm not going down without a fight. Rhea may have a head start, but I'm not going down without a fight. Now. Right. Medusa closed her eyes to settle her breathing, her bokken poised. In front of her was one of the trees that the elder looked after, with Tochimaru perched on one of its limbs. She nodded at the mouse, who stomped on the limb with its paw, shaking several leaves loose. She flung her wooden weapon downwards at her chosen leaf after careful observation. Kasaka slash, says the narrator. Medusa calmed her breathing as she heard her master's slow clapping as she moved in front of her and picked up something from the ground. Shigure turned around and extended her palm, displaying the leaf that Medusa had sliced with the method. The thin side of the leaf cut it in half, with the other half being a little translucent. Good job, Shigure replied, his smile fading. Medusa smiled as she threw her arms up. Yay! Now, it's time for more advanced technique training. Medusa instantly collapsed, falling to her knees in crocodile sobs. Furinji Island in the Sea of Japan intense. That was the best term Naruto could think of to express how he felt right now. Why would he not be? The heads of the three factions are seated around a circular table. Michael of the Angels, Sirzechs of the Devils, Azazel of the Fallen Angels, and Genryusai Yamamoto of the Shinigami troops. Last but not least, he is one of the leaders of the Greek faction as a result of his succession to Poseidon. 5 really powerful people in one room could knock someone out and kill them instantly. Fortunately, no such persons exist. Now that we've arrived, I think some explanations are in order, Azazel said abruptly, confusing his angel and devil counterparts. He turned to face Naruto. How has a human with your abilities managed to stay under the radar for so long, let alone your succession of Poseidon's title and status? I, too, would like to know about that, Sirzechs responded, glancing at the blonde. Grayfia, his wife, was standing behind him, as were Rias and her friends. Naruto deduced from the expressions on their faces that they felt a little sorry for putting him on the position. He sighed, as one would expect from a strange person from another globe and faction leader. Hearing a slight sigh behind him, he realizes that Rhea is equally curious about him. When he didn't respond, Azazel was about to ask him again when Naruto finally said, "What I'm about to say is strictly between everyone in this room. No one is to repeat anything to anyone. Head Captain Yamamoto and the captains of the Gote 13 are already informed of my origins." Hold on a second, Naruto, Michael said, looking at Sirzechs and Azazel. Why should he explain his origins now? If he doesn't want to talk about it, we shouldn't bother. Coming from a Boy Scout. How typical. Rias and her peerage couldn't hide their surprise at Azazel's dismissal of Michael. I was just curious about our fellow leader. Yamamoto then offered his support. However, I agree with Michael's statement. You do not have the right to inquire about a leader's past. His spiritual pressure began to build somewhat, but he instantly relaxed himself and subdued it with ease. Naruto, Rhea said, staring at his back, where his sword hung proudly. Azazel finally groaned despondently and wiped his cheek. Oh, forget about it. Let's just sign the treaty and be done with it. For a leader, you're a pretty laid-back kind of guy, huh? Naruto said boredly. Huh? I suppose I could say the same thing about you. Touché. Tap 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 asterisk. The representatives examined the source, which happened to be Yamamoto. If we may attend to other pressing matters. Of course, Sirzechs replied, adopting a business-like demeanor, as did Michael and, to a lesser extent, Azazel. As we form an alliance between our factions, you Shinigami should be aware of the Chaos Brigade. The Chaos Brigade? Naruto and Yamamoto asked again, the former clearly considering. Naruto? I heard about this Chaos Brigade from a Nekomata Kuroka not long ago. He felt Kaneko tense up after hearing the word. He told everyone about his battle with Triton and Kuroka, as well as Aphrodite's unsuccessful scheme to increase her power. I think Triton mentioned a name. Ophis. I believe that is their leader. Ophis. Michael, Sirzechs, and his family's surprise increased tenfold. They couldn't believe he was up against Triton, a minor god and the allegedly deceased immortal son of Poseidon, and Kuroka, one of the underworld's most wanted criminals. Even the most skilled warrior would struggle against them, and he conquered them. Now the dragon god, also known as the Ouroboros dragon, has his sights set on him. No one was more surprised than Kaneko herself. She is aware that her race, the Nekosho, are formidable in their own right due to their mastery of Senjutsu and Yujutsu, and that her sister was one of history's most powerful practitioners, and Naruto manages to keep her at bay? How powerful is Naruto really? Yudo had to ask, still reeling from this unexpected truth. Defeating a minor god while avoiding an SS-class criminal is nothing short of, well, godlike, was the only word Rias could think of at the time. Naruto's ears perked up as he tugged on his lips with a slight forced smile. Thanks to a certain sea god, I'm becoming a god, and I'll make sure he lives to regret it, he said, a little sinister grin on his face. Meanwhile, at Poseidon's palace in Atlantis, in the Pacific Ocean, the third youngest Olympian, sitting in his personalized chair, was processing paperwork on his green desk about the patrol routes within the kingdom in the outer patrol. He appeared to be exceedingly delighted, so joyful that he was about to pass out, based on his joyous countenance. Until he felt a cold down his spine, jolting him out of his trance. Honey? Poseidon asked, his wife's head poking out from beneath the desk. Is there something wrong? No, honey, he said after a few period, gently moving his wife's head back under the desk. Everything is just fine. Oh, how wrong he was. Island of Furingi. Michael reported on an occurrence involving members of the realms of heaven, the underworld, and the fallen angel organization, the Grigori, their formal government, military. The Excalibur incident, as it was originally and solely known to the three factions. The Excalibur fragments are safe in heaven for the time being after defeating the rogue church associates with the help of Rias and her friends, Michael informed with a faint smile. That's good news. After all, my sister helped. Sirzechs toothily smiled at an annoyed Rias, who simply face-palmed while Grayfia shook her head. Sharing a laugh with Rhea, Naruto then asks a question that no one expected him to ask, save Yamamoto. What exactly is Excalibur, by the way? Except for Yamamoto, the religiously affiliated races, including Grayfia, let out a collective gasp. What? A perplexed Naruto inquired. Michael was the one who told him about Excalibur, from its creation by the biblical and legacy of leading Arthur Pendragon being the king of Camelot in its title as the Sword of Power, to its eventual destruction into its several fragments known as the Excalibur fragments, 7 different Excaliburs each possessing one special ability. Oh, well, at least the fragments are out of reach of that Freed and Archbishop guy. Azazel breathed a sigh of relief. He understands. I never thought we'd meet someone who didn't know anything about Excalibur in our lifetime, Sirzechs taunted, ticking Naruto off his list. Give me a break, murmured Naruto, his arms folded, pouting. I just finished reading all about Shinto mythology not too long ago. The individuals in Naruto's age group shivered in response to the blonde leader. Leaving that aside, Michael produced a lengthy blank white sheet in front of him with a sweep of his hand before handing it over to Sirzechs, who was initially hesitant. Anything formed with the light of heaven or the angels is guaranteed to harm them. He lightly touched it and felt no discomfort before gripping it and looking at Michael. What exactly is this for? It's so we can start writing the treaty. Each of us should provide terms and policies that are fair to all of our factions, Michael explained. It may take us all day, but it will be worthwhile in the end. Panicking. A single sweat drop rolled down Naruto's face. Crap. My plans with Rhea tonight are ruined. He turned over his shoulder to see Rhea and apologized. She spoke to him with her mouth. Tomorrow, Rhea said, with a wink that sent thrills down the shinobi's spine. She's so sweet, Naruto exclaimed, crocodile tears running down his cheeks. When he turned his head back, the draft was already in front of him. Before returning his gaze, he read the thoughts and policies suggested by the three leaders. They were obviously waiting for his input, which he provided. With all due respect to the three of you, Naruto channeled his wind chakra through the draft, ripping it into irreparable strips, surprising everyone, including Yamamoto. This is not good at all. And why is that? Naruto said, for three reasons. One is that problems will arise when those who read the treaty protest against it, possibly even rebelling against your leadership. Two is something that bothers me about the whole Excalibur incident. How did these fallen angels know where each fragment was? Wouldn't you or anyone of equal rank or status move them to a new secure location after an angel falls? Yes, we've done that, Michael said, still unsure what he was on about. What exactly are you suggesting? From what we know of the Chaos Brigade, they recruit beings of all kinds, whether they're humans, devils, fallen angels, or... He turned to face the Archangel. Angels. Everyone but Valley and Azazel's eyes widened as they recognized what the blonde human was alluding to. Traitors in the realm of heaven. Normally, when an angel is about to descend, God's mechanism prevents it by building a barrier sphere around the angel with Enochian, the apparent language of the angels, letters, symbols, runes. Assuming they recruit any being, it's possible that spies within heaven are feeding intel to the Chaos Brigade. That's the only explanation I can think of for the time being. Sirzechs interrupted, noticing a subtly depressed Michael. But, ultimately, it's just a theory. A theory worth considering, Yamamoto responded, indicating his support for Naruto's theory. It's not uncommon for one side to have informants within the opposing side. Azazel nodded lazily, while Naruto nodded curtly. It is just a possibility. Michael offered a slight nod and sighed softly. He didn't want to be associated with traitors among his kin. His species is already small in comparison to the idyllic years before the Great War. Unfortunately, in the reality known as life, things can happen at any time. And thirdly, Naruto spoke again, looking between Issei and Valley. What's the deal with Issei and the other guy? I sense two distinct but powerful auras within them. Are they hosts or something? The three leaders exchanged contemplative looks before explaining to Naruto, Rhea, and Yamamoto about Issei and Valley. They stated that the boys are the present hosts of the two heavenly dragons. Issei was the host of the Welsh dragon known as Drige, thus he was known as the Red Dragon Emperor, and Valley was the host of the divining dragon known as Albion, so he is now known as the White Dragon Emperor. Time passed as Michael continued to discuss the two dragons' rivalry that predates the Great War. But, until today, the only time the three factions unified and fought together was during the Great War. He went on to explain how the dragons lost their bodies and were locked in Longinus-type sacred gears that, when mastered, had the potential to slay gods or equal beings. The Welsh dragon in the boosted gear and the divining dragon in the divided gear. Finally, he concluded with the history of the boosted and dividing gears hosts battling one another over the years. Naruto stroked his head as he exhaled, looking at both Issei and Valley. Man, that sucks for you guys, he said honestly. Sounds familiar, Ashura? Unfortunately, the answer is yes. Hearing his ancestors' mournful sigh over his and his brother's century-long feud, Naruto laughed inwardly. Although it appears that they are unaware of your existence, Kurama. What made him say that? While we're on that subject, Valley remarked, taking everyone's attention away from Naruto. How about you? My partner detects something in you as well, a dark power. Damn it, Naruto. You had to say it. Kurama chastised his Jinchuriki for being found out. Sirzechs was going to ask the blonde ninja a question when Yamamoto stopped him. As I previously stated, Naruto is not required to explain his origins or anything about himself unless he has agreed to it. Then what's the point of this alliance if we can't agree? Sirzechs questioned, his face contemptuous. The officials remained silent shortly after hearing those statements, putting the fate of the peace talks in jeopardy. In the meantime, Hueco Mundo, my lady, Kateria. The voluptuous and pink-haired woman in very skimpy and revealing apparel gazed at her subordinate, who, like the rest of her forces, donned elaborate black armor. What exactly is it? Everyone is prepared for the assault. Our scout returned with intelligence that all targets are present on the island, he said as he walked away, seeing a small evil grin on his leader's face. The woman strolled through the palace hallways before the realm's sun shone on her, snarling slightly. She despised the enlarged light bulb, whether natural or artificial, as the sun was historically considered as mankind's eternal light. As she approached the palace's entrance, the woman smiled as she gazed down upon 3 but very huge columns of her brethren, close to 100 strong, all armed and ready for fight. In this case, it's the slaughter of the leaders at the peace talks, as well as their intended totalitarian tyranny over the rest of the world, as it should be for her kind. It's just as her ancestor would have wanted it. Island of Furingi. This is very bad. What is it, the fact that the peace talks may end with no alliance or that I've been discovered? Both. You could tell a lie. A little sweat drop landed on Naruto's brow. That's not a good way to start an alliance. If I may, Rhea kindly asked, her voice mild. I've been troubled by something for quite some time. I'm saved. Naruto exclaimed internally to the Titaness. Rhea addressed Michael the question that had been on her mind since the mention of the peace talks a long time ago. If you're the leader, where is God, because I've heard some disturbing rumors about him. Michael's expression was sorrowful as he, Sirzechs, and Azazel sat in silence on their seats, with everyone else joining in the awkward gesture. Issei's companion engaged him in one of their telepathic conversations. Something big is about to happen, partner. Issei got much more perplexed than before. What do you mean, Diedrich? What's about to happen? He said, only to be answered with silence. Diedrich? His gaze was drawn to Rias as he felt his arm being caught by her hand and saw the look of disbelief on her face. It wasn't just her either. He looked around at his buddies and Naruto and Rhea, who all had the same expression of amazement on their faces, while Michael appeared even more dejected than before. What? What did you just say? Naruto said, his voice trembling. Azazel interposed, seeing Michael tremble slightly, and repeated the words that had frightened them. The original 4 Satans died in the Great War, but God was extremely exhausted after the ordeal. Michael reflected afterwards, not after the creation of the universe. Issei's eyes widened when he heard that, and his body shuddered significantly. No way. God was exhausted? Can he even be exhausted? Michael said that once heaven's forces, the fallen angels' forces, and the forces of the underworld returned to their own realms, he and the rest of the seraphs, guardians of heaven's throne, brought their father back to the throne to rest and recoup. Following that, he and the seraphim strove to maintain the system's operation that God had constructed from the beginning of time, and they succeeded. With Michael at the center of it, as his father had before him. Until 300 years ago, when God regained his power and resumed his beneficent rule over heaven in the sacred gear system. Michael also concluded explaining that his father had assigned him to deal with any difficulties that would endanger his creations. However, he will only intervene with all his wonders if and only if the situation is overwhelmingly terrible. This includes the current peace discussions. How could you guys keep something this big a secret for so long? Rhea said, still stunned. Whether they are mortal or immortal, gods or heroes, news of notable characters in myths does not go unnoticed, and practically every supernatural entity in the universe would be aware almost immediately. This time, Sirzechs responded. After their deaths and God's exhaustion, we 3 and our other high-ranking members decided to keep the news hidden from everyone because we didn't want to wreak more havoc on the humans. If the news ever leaked out, Yamamoto stated sternly, it would cause a global pandemic and a power vacuum. What does that mean? Naruto inquired. Rhea provided him with an answer. It means that Christianity and Islam, 2 of the world's largest religions, will cease to exist, and all believers will panic, deny, and lose faith entirely. Naruto nodded slightly. Naruto? He sat in quiet with closed eyelids, ignoring his ancestors' expressed anxiety as he tried to comprehend this news. He never finished reading the Bible, but every time he did, he felt something within him. He could virtually never define the perplexing sensation, but he felt like he was back at Konoha, at ease, serene, and directed. Naruto. Naruto. When the shinobi looked up, he noticed that all eyes were on him. He took a big breath before exhaling and looked at Michael, saying, I am very sorry, Michael. How is your father? He's fine, Naruto. My sister, Gabriel, is looking after him. Thank you for asking. You're welcome, Naruto said again, nodding. So, shall we go over the treaty? Yamamoto groaned and lightly stomped his staff, clearly annoyed. Isn't that the reason we're here? Right. The inhabitants of the room felt a sense of success as they took another step toward reconciliation amongst respective factions. Karakura village, ha, ha, ha. Ha 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 ha. Ah, ah, ah. Ichigo stared around the training ground, first at Orihime and Chad. What was once a beautiful but barren rocky environment has now devolved into an inhospitable wasteland where life cannot be sustained by any means. Chad's Nemean cestus gauntlets had engulfed the ground, leaving many 15-foot holes, not to mention Ichigo's Getsuga Tensho's 3 long tunnels. Come on, guys. We're not done yet. Chad struggled to his feet and curtly nodded. of course. Alright. Orihime changed from the ordinary horse posture to the advanced snake stance, her arms outstretched like a snake about to attack its prey. She calmed herself when Ichigo vanished from view, sensing his spiritual pressure. Her pupils narrowed unnaturally as she turned on her heel and blocked a vertical slice with her golden fleece, the ground breaking slightly beneath the pressure. She noticed a white mask with 10 black stripes on the left side of her boyfriend's face, as well as a dramatic spike in his spiritual pressure. This is Ichigo's hollow mask. Hollowification. She cringed as the sword ground against her last resistance, leaving her with only one choice. Ichigo's entire universe was in excruciating torment as he prepared to unleash a Getsuga Tensho. When he peered down, he saw Orihime's foot attached to his family jewels, which was the source of the intense anguish he felt while dropping his Zanpakudo. A bashful Orihime could only watch as a now maskless Ichigo slumped to the ground, hiding his privates, while she retracted her leg. "I'm sorry, but it's kinda your fault." "How is it my fault?" moaned Ichigo. "You wore your hollow mask," Orihime remarked. "You're not supposed to use your hollow mask after what happened last time." "Oh right. The previous time he utilized the hollow power, a huge city news story about a city block's buildings collapsing due to missing support beams that were mysteriously slashed like butter went viral across Japan. My bad. I think that's enough for today," Chad said as he lightly tapped his gauntlets against each other, reverting them to their dormant state. Orihime sealed away the fleece while Ichigo entered his body, and the couple nodded. They went to the kitchen for lunch, only to find a familiar face sitting in the living room. "Naruto?" "Hey there, guys." A tick-marked Ichigo grabbed the shinobi by the collar of his jacket. "Where have you been, you bastard?" he exclaimed, shaking him like a bobblehead. "I've been training on my own for the past month without your help. What's the point of offering training if you're not here?" "I'm still not here," exclaimed the blonde incoherently between shaking. "Huh?" exclaimed the group as Ichigo let go of him. "You're a clone?" Orihime inquired, despite witnessing her blonde friend's jutsu. "Yes, the boss is very busy right now with the meeting and everything." "What meeting?" Chad inquired. "The meeting with Old Man Yamamoto and the leaders of the Judeo-Christian religion's 3 factions." 3, 2, 1, what? Huh? Didn't I mention it to you? "No, you didn't," Ichigo yelled at his opponent. "Oops, my bad. Or his bad, I think." Clone Naruto massaged his cheek sheepishly. "Anyway, he sent me here to check up on your training." "I think I should ask you that question. You must be very strict if you don't even send a clone to train me," remarked a sneaky Ichigo with a mischievous smile. Instead of engaging in one of their mini-fights, the clone knelt with a cloud above him. "You have no idea at all, Ichigo. Especially since I'm learning the secret animal trine techniques of the Furinji style," a cheeky Naruto boasted, finishing with a loud chuckle. "Animal trine techniques?" Chad inquired. "Sounds lame," Ichigo replied casually, his face bored. Ignoring that and suppressing the angry vein, Naruto described how the animal trine techniques are based on the animals of the zodiac and how there are 2 scrolls, each having 6 techniques. He also told them about his world's nemesis, Kabuto, and his apprenticeship to one of Yami's evil martial arts masters. "What about this Kabuto guy? A sick bastard who seeks vengeance by any means necessary, including mutations on himself," Naruto growled. "Just like his former master." Ichigo commented casually, "Yami? I thought it was just a scary story for all aspiring martial arts masters. Looks like Pops was telling the truth." "Yep." Chad inquired, "Naruto, would you mind telling us about meeting the leaders of the Judeo-Christian religion? You said the original you is meeting them, but who are they? And is you, meeting him?" he asked, pointing to the ceiling, referring to the Lord himself. "No idea, and the boss is meeting with Michael the Archangel, Sirzechs from the underworld, and Azazel of the Grigori Fallen Angel organization," says the boss. "You've met Michael? Grigori organization?" Orihime inquired, tilting her lovely head. "Fallen angels?" Ichigo asked, skeptically. "Yeah, right. Like they exist." Naruto, Chad, and even Orihime gave him a deadpan look, as if to say, "Are you serious? Dude, you're a human with Shinigami powers. Your friends are said to be Shinigami, and Chad, Orihime, and Uryu have special powers, not to mention you've met Poseidon, one of the 12 Olympians, himself." "Right," Ichigo murmured after being humiliated. Chad only nodded as Naruto and Orihime laughed at him. "Whatever." "He," the clone said, yanking on the orange-haired teen's right lower eyelid. "Loser. Why are you in the afternoon, Furinji Island?" Half the day had passed with plenty of time to spare, much to Naruto's delight. He and Rhea may finally go on a date tonight, and he intends to take her to one of Tokyo's entertainment districts. In other news, the peace discussions went off without a hitch after strict confidentiality that everything stated in this chamber would not be reported from outside. This includes the Lord's well-guarded secret in heaven. I believe that's everything, Michael said after signing the pact, followed by Azazel and Sirzechs, who handed the document to Naruto. Naruto grabbed the gorgeous blue and ruby-colored fountain pen that was hovering in front of him before staring at the document in front of him. The words, the Furinji Treaty, appeared at the top of the document, named for the island and Naruto's martial arts master. This elicited a slight chuckle, and he continued reading, his eyes scrolling down to ensure that the terms established between the factions were apparent. Especially the first 4 periods, which were entirely negotiated. The first term said that all members of the factions would stop fighting each other anyplace on Earth. However, if an angel provokes a fallen angel or vice versa, those individuals will be punished by the upper ranks of the factions, such as the Seraphs, Satans, or Grigori leaders. Coexistence was the second phrase. To alleviate future and/or hidden tensions between the 3 factions, as well as the Shinigami faction's existence now becoming public knowledge, cities throughout Earth will be established where one member from Heaven, Underworld, the Grigori, and the Shinigami will live together as squads from now on. This way, the 4 members will learn to accept one another, work together, and eventually become friends while simultaneously dealing with city problems. These squads would be dubbed Myrmidons, after the hardy Greek warriors led by Achilles, the renowned and greatest warrior of all time. Counter-terrorism was the third term. In the event of individuals or organizations such as the Chaos Brigade, the 4 factions, including the Shinigami faction, will assemble a counter-terrorist force to restrict or eliminate terrorist members who threaten the world's balance and peace. The counter-terrorism force will be made up of 7 teams, each with numerous members from each group. Each squad will work together with the Myrmidon squad to eliminate the threat in whatever city is under attack or in peril. Last but not least, safety and security. There have recently been tales of strong treasures and weapons from various myths around the world going missing, such as Athena's Aegis shield, the Eye of Shangri-La, and Mars' sword. This contains artifacts and weaponry linked with wicked people and monsters like as Polypharion, Poseidon's Cyclops son who fought Odysseus and his crew in ancient times. To avoid losses, Myrmidon squads will be stationed around the locations of each weapon and item, with permission from the leaders of other myths. VIPs such as gods and immortals are likewise protected. Not that they would need it, but it is common knowledge that gods in old civilizations such as Greece, Rome, and Norway are far weaker than they were centuries ago. In terms of the weapons, Michael, does that include Titan's weapons? He received a yes from the Seraph, and it was barely a split second, but Michael called the weapon that he assumed Naruto was concerned about, Kronos' scythe, as one of the missing weapons. When Michael stated that a few more Titan weapons had gone missing 2 months ago, Naruto detected a slight trace of profound fear in Rei's eyes. Could he really blame her? Kronos pushed himself on her 6 times, each session resulting in the birth of her Olympian children. He'll just have to maintain his unspoken commitment to protect her at whatever cost, including his own life if necessary. With a nod, Naruto set that aside for a minute and signed his name in kanji, like Yamamoto, rather than the English writing used by Michael, Azazel, and Sirzechs. The treaty briefly shone in front of it, and the pen drifted back to Michael, who tucked them both inside his robes. Peace had been restored among them, and they were no longer foes in the case of the 3 factions, but allies until the end of time. Now that that's out of the way, I suggest Azazel's sentence was cut short when Naruto abruptly rose from his seat. "We've got trouble," he exclaimed, taking everyone off guard and setting everyone on edge. The sounds of many explosions hitting the gates backed up his claims. Enemies on the outside. Everyone, except Valley, went to the window to see a swarm of enemies, primarily demons with bat-like wings spread out as they floated outside the blue-green barriers, summoning and launching barrages of lightning spells in the hopes of breaching the surprisingly strong barriers. How did they discover the location of the island? Were they aware that the leaders were meeting today? Everyone was filled with questions. But one thing is certain, the island is being attacked. Aerial view of the island, destroy those barriers. As their brethren summoned more lightning spells and other elemental attacks against the barrier enclosing the island, the descendant of the original Leviathan commanded. She became increasingly annoyed as the barrier's surface rippled in many places where the attacks failed to pierce it and there was still no hint of any weak points. What kind of barrier is this? She clenched her teeth at the barrier's spinning blue-white inverted spiral crest. It seemed as if he was telling her to simply try to break it. Don't ever let up. Hi. To strengthen their piercing powers, multiple troops called more lightning and fire spells. A stream of fire and lightning bolts raced across the air and collided with the barrier, leaving a blinding blaze of yellow and red in their wake. But, as previously, the barrier held firm against the collective assault. She was so preoccupied with the demolition of the barrier that she didn't notice the sea's surface below whirling into a big maelstrom before a large flood of saltwater came out of the eye, the 1,000 gallons of pure physical force and pressure destined to crush her. My lady. A lone soldier shoved the woman aside and received the brunt of the attack, the jet-like spray careening him up into the atmosphere. The other demons searched the sky for any sign of their companion, but they were unsuccessful. A loud horse-like cry drew their attention to the sea. Kateria peered down and was astounded to see a massive creature made of water and green scales with spider-like appendages and a serpentine tail. The most distinguishing feature was the horse-like head with bright eyes that was entirely formed of water. A hippocampus, here, shouted a single demon, surprised. Despite his massive size and appearance, the Poseidon creature whirled quickly while releasing a powerful torrent of water from its lips. The many torrents, whips of water, together with the whirling, gave the hippocampus the appearance of a sprinkler on high. The demons were too stunned or surprised to react after being hit by the multi-layered attack, while some of the others managed to avoid it. "This can't be," muttered a demon before turning to face his lady. "What should we do, Lady Kateria?" "Die." When the Leviathan member teleported with her family's magic circle, he exclaimed, what? Given that the hippocampus is the biggest impediment to their goal, Kateria's warriors concentrated their efforts on the beast, assaulting it with lightning, ice, and fire spells. They were so engrossed that they didn't notice or flinch when an explosion erupted on the island, inside the barrier. Along with Naruto, the Ryozanpaku hut is two-story and composed of teak, which is said to be the strongest wood. The front and back doors were made of oak, the world's most well-known and widely used wood. Despite its tiny facade, the interior was unexpectedly vast, with seating for over 50 people in the main area alone. The custom, self-made wooden house built by Mew and the masters of Ryozanpaku was regarded one of their triumphs that had nothing to do with combat. Splinters of splintered wood and damaged pipes, as well as charred drawers and clothing, littered the ground. The delegates of the three factions, the Shinigami faction, and the Greek faction, were now standing on the left side, where the peace discussions were taking place, and one of them was displeased. That lady destroyed the cabin. Naruto was barely held by Issei and Yuto before he could do anything. Give me her, she has to pay. She must have used a technique similar to Obito's that allowed her to bypass your barriers, Kurama noted, internally chastising barrier ninjutsu's vulnerability to space-time ninjutsu or related methods. The woman stood across from them, grinning vulgarly as her eyes took on the look of a predator when it located its prey. She locked her gaze on the barrier that was shielding them from her attack. Wait a minute, look at that. The factions are all cooperating. How adorable. Kateria expressed her displeasure. Who exactly is she? Rhea inquired as she placed a hand on Naruto, instantly calming him down. Sirzechs was the one to respond. Her name is Kateria Leviathan, and she is a descendant of the first Leviathan. She, along with the descendants of the original kings, think they should continue the Great War after their deaths, therefore they founded the old Satan faction. However, many others in the underworld, including the angels and fallen angels, believed that the survival of our race was more vital. The new Satan faction was the name given to this faction. Because of their immense powers, our group and the public decided that 4 more devils should inherit the 4 Satans moniker after the Civil War. Those chosen are myself, Seraphal, and Ajuka. Which one are you? Naruto inquired. Enough. Kateria interrupted the talk when she observed the 3 strangers. So the Shinigami do exist. Despite the fact that you don't appear scary. Panic gripped Naruto and his colleagues. Did she really just say that? He remarked to himself as he looked at Yamamoto, who had his back to him. He believed he appeared calm at first, but then he saw the Shinigami's tightening hold on his wooden cane. He's pissed. We're all alone now. Azazel made a casual comment. Naruto and company looked at him, who was staring up into the sky, and discovered a stunning upset. Valley, clad in white dragon armor with blue wings extending from his back and looking bored, was decimating the armed forces of Heaven, Underworld, and the Grigori. What the hell? Said Naruto as the surviving armed forces, whether angel, devil, or fallen angel, approached the grinning valley, summoning light spears in a slew of spells. They didn't get a chance to use them, though, since Valley came behind them and destroyed them with a blinding ray of power. He works extremely fast. Valley descended next to Kateria, his wings still flapping. Excellent work. Now for the main course. Azazel was about to step forward, taking it as his cue, when both Yamamoto and, surprise, Issei stood in front of the group, close enough to the shield. Issei? Rias inquired about her servants, friends. When Naruto sat down, he surprised everyone by quietly chuckling. You go and get them, Yamamoto and Issei. And Naruto. This is serious business, Rias grumbled a little. I know, but I'd like to see how Issei handles himself in a fight in case I ever want to fight him, and I have a feeling he and Valley aren't going to pass up this opportunity. Naruto was correct about Issei and Valley's new rivalry, whether they admit it or not. There's also the fact that the old man's pissed. How correct you are, Naruto. The Shinigami hissed quietly, his robes fluttering as he and Issei exited the shield via the breach the leaders had made. Yamamoto lifted his cane, attracting everyone's attention, without looking back to see the closed hole. Young gentleman. He addressed the boy next to him. Hi. Under the terrifying pressure seeping from the man, Issei reacted timidly. You'd best get serious now. When the cane is unwrapped to reveal a sheathed sword, his eyes widen. After learning of your Red Dragon Emperor status, I'd like to know about your combat prowess to see if I made the right alliance choice. Cool. Now that it's done and dusted, as Issei summoned his boosted gears balance breaker, scale mail, the red variant of the dragon armor with some changes, Naruto stared at a still astonished Rhea. Where do you want to go tonight? Kateria scoffed instead, suppressing a sneer. Do you really think this will be over in an instant? Poseidon, you are so arrogant. You seem to recognize my title. That caught me off guard, and certainly, I believe this will end soon because none of you have ever seen the strength of a Shinigami. Everyone felt the heat at that point. And that includes the head captain. Burn all living things. Jaka Ryujin, to be continued.
That's it for this podcast. Thanks for listening to this video. If you did enjoy this part of the story, like, share and subscribe for more, and thank you all for happy support and have a great day.